Assalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, my name is Shelvia Ginanti. On this good occasion, I would like to speak about usable expression for discussion, especially in academic discussion. So I hope you enjoy watching my video. So first, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you act as a chairperson. So, the expression, the purpose for our discussion is, example, to know important to wearing hijab. Let's discuss about the topic. If we talk about blah blah blah, it seems necessary to discuss blah 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 and decide which is the most and the least. Let me start with the explanation. Let's begin with the factor. Let's discuss explanation first. Can you explain your point a little more clearly? Can we see what other people think about this? Who was not had a chance to speak yet? Is there any last comment on this point before we move on the next one? So, we have two opposing arguments here. On the one hand, blah blah blah. On the other hand, blah blah blah. In other words, most of us think that. Can we draw any conclusion from what we have been saying? So, there are some expressions if you ask a chairperson. So next, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you act as everyone and giving your opinion about the discussion about the topic. So the expression, I think that is a good topic. In my view or in my opinion, blah blah blah. As far as I can see or I'm concerned, surely the main reason for my opinion is blah blah blah. To my mind, blah blah blah. In fact, it's not true. To the best of my knowledge, blah blah blah, that the way I see it, blah blah blah. If you ask me about that, I'm not sure if blah blah blah. It is said, believed, or known that. It is obvious that. It seems to me that I have a feeling that blah blah blah. Well, I would say you can take it from me that blah blah blah. If you ask me blah blah blah, it seems to me that blah blah blah. I think or I feel or I reckon or I believe, blah blah blah. If you want my opinion, blah blah blah, first of all, or to start with, I would like to point out, blah blah blah. There can be no doubt that, blah blah blah. Nobody will deny that, blah blah blah. Everyone knows about the topic. Let's get this clear first. The point I'm trying to make is an argument. I'm absolutely convinced that blah blah blah, the way I look at or I see is this. So there are expressions if you in the discussion you act as everyone to giving your opinion. So next, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you want giving an explanation about the topic in discussion. So the expression, look, it's like this. The reason for this is blah blah blah. Just me explain blah blah blah. Well, the thing is blah blah blah. What I mean is blah blah blah. The main problem is blah blah blah. What the reason is. Above all, we must keep in mind that blah blah blah. So there are expressions if you want giving an explanation. So next, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you balancing arguments. The expression, on the one hand blah blah blah, and on the other hand blah blah blah. Some people say that blah blah blah, others believe that blah blah blah. It is said blah blah blah, however blah blah blah. So there are some expression if you balancing arguments. So next, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you want asking question about someone else's opinion or explanation. So the expression, call you tell me, what's your opinion about? How do you feel about? What do you think about? What do you think of? Do you think? Do you feel? May I ask you? Do you mean that? Do you agree? Do you share my point of view? What do you mean when you say? What do you mean by that? I don't fully understand. Can you give some examples? Could you explain to me? Just tell me the reason why. I just don't see why. I just don't see what. I just don't see how. Blah blah blah. I don't quite get that. Could someone please tell me? I don't really understand. Are you saying that? I beg your pardon. Excuse me? Did you say that? So, there are some expression if you want asking questions about someone else's opinion or explanation. So next, I will convey an expression if in the discussion you want to give agreeing and disagreeing arguments. So the expression, I quite agree. I couldn't agree with you more. That's true. That's right. Exactly. Precisely. Right. Certainly. Definitely. I think so too. That's just my feeling. That's just my opinion. That's very good. That's very important point. Yes, of course. Definitely, absolutely. That's exactly what I mean, or what I say. I agree because I disagree with you. I strongly agree with you. I couldn't agree more. That seems very logical to me. I share your point of view. That's exactly how I see it. How very true. Yes, indeed. I agree completely or entirely. I I entirely or completely agree with you on that. That's just it. You are quiet or so, right? I don't think so either. That's just how I see it or feel about it too. You have a good point there. Marvelous. Yes, that obvious. That's what I think. So do or so am I. I'm in all favor or what you have been saying. I can see your point, but is not clearly. That's very good point, but is I disagree. You perhaps, but blah blah blah. Yes, but on the other hand, blah blah blah. I agree. I agree up to a certain point, but blah blah blah. Maybe I supposed to. I don't think it is as simple as that. Blah blah blah. You may be right there. Yes, possibly also blah blah blah. Yes, up to a point. Yes, in a way. Well, it depends. I see what you mean, but I think that's not the whole story. Yes, but there also another aspect to consider. I'm afraid I can't agree because you have a little point. I disagree with you. I'm afraid. Yes, in a way. Well, it depends. I don't quite agree there. I'm not quiet. So, sir, really? Do you really think so? Or believe that? Well, that's one way of looking at it, but you can't really mean that. I wouldn't say so. I don't think you're right. I don't want to argue with you, but blah blah blah. I don't agree with you. I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Are you seriously suggesting that? No, really. I no, I really can't agree that. I'm afraid. I'm not certain or at all sure if that's true or correct. I'm sorry, I can't agree. I'm not confident that blah blah blah. Well, I have many doubts about that. You don't really mean that Do you? I don't think so. I can't go all the way with you on that point. So, there are some expression if you giving agreeing and disagreeing in the discussion. So next, I will give you an expression if in the discussion, and this expression especially in summing up in discussion. The expression is to sum up blah blah blah, to conclude blah blah blah, to summarize blah blah blah, taking everything into consideration blah blah blah. I can suggest the following order blah blah blah. Do you agree? I believe the most important is blah blah blah, in the less significant is blah blah blah. We have agreed on the following order blah blah blah. We have decided the number 1 is blah blah blah, number 2 is blah blah blah, and number 3 is blah blah blah. So there are some expression in the discussion if you summing up. So I think that's all that I can say about the some expression in discussion, especially in academic discussion. I hope you can learn about the about I previously said before. Thank you for your attention, and I think that's all for me. Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.